Okay, I guess I get started. The first, the book is tied to me. The book is part of me. And the book didn't start 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago. It started when I was 15 years old. My mother had died, my best friend. My daddy had died earlier. The only thing I had was my mother. And the whole world, nobody, I was a strange child anyway, but my mother understood me. I wasn't, for the environment that I was in, I was not a normal child. And my name is Leon. I'm named after a white preacher. And I don't know how my daddy met him, but so from the time I was 5 years old, I knew I was going to preach. I was going to preach if I had to preach. I've been in the backyard. I was going to preach. And then when I got to the Church of God, and they told me that not many wise men were called, but my favorite one is verse 28 of 1 Corinthians, the first chapter, because this is me. When I woke up in the morning and ate breakfast, I didn't know whether I was going to eat supper or not. I'm not telling this story because I want pity. I'm going to tell you this story because I want to glorify the God who made me. I've traveled a road, that most people haven't traveled, and I don't want them to travel. But for me, it was the training ground. It was the training ground for God. So I have no doubt where I come from. I had been working in a factory. I've been digging ditches. I've done a lot of things. But one time, I think I told the story yesterday. Let's get the whole story straight. First of all, when I was 18 years old, I was on the county road breaking rocks from the chain gang. So when I tell people my age, I didn't have a father, didn't have a mother, and so raised in the city, I ended up on the chain gang. So people say, that's a sad thing, you raised on the chain gang. I said, that's where my education started. My education started in an institution when I was a kid. That's where it started. I went in the Army. I couldn't adjust to the Army way of life. So at 21 years old, the main street in my neighborhood, in the black neighborhood in Nashville, was Jefferson Street. I looked one way towards Fisk University in Meharry, I looked the other way towards Tennessee State. I said, God, what am I living for? I had no hope. I had no hope at all. So I'm telling you this journey because I want y'all to know what God has done for me. I couldn't stand white folks, and look where I'm at right now. Didn't want to be around a white man 5 days, a white woman fighting anything. I didn't want to be around them. I was indoctrinated in the Malcolm X, the Stoker Carmichael. Didn't like Martin Luther King, I thought he was crazy. He ended up, and that's the truth. That's where I come from. That's the journey. So I got into religion, and I went to a black Seventh-day keeping church. But by the time I got there, I had already studied the worldwide stuff. So I was more in the worldwide than I was into, So I started telling the preacher what I learned, not to mention Herbert W. name. I just tell him what I learned, and he got mad at me. So I got baptized in May. I got baptized again Thanksgiving the same year in the worldwide. So that's the journey. But when I wrote the letter to the worldwide, I didn't tell them I want to be a member. I didn't even tell them that I recognize them as the church. What I told them was, I want the knowledge. My journey has been about knowledge that I could give to people. I didn't want to just sit in church and pray and jump up and down and go back and go out on the street. All I wanted for is to share. First it was all black people. I didn't care about the white people. Then one day God knocked me down. On my way to Damascus, which each one of us had a trip to Damascus, you got knocked down. So God told me I'm the God of all people. So when I don't get into black politics, I make people mad. If I think of the good on both sides and the bad, they are usually, well, Ward said it good on Facebook. He said when he said things, you know, I ain't gonna get it right, but he know what he said. When he says things that about, you know, that favor Democrats, people think he's a Democrat. Then he'll say something in favor of a Republican, they'll think he's a Republican, but he's neither one. He's just following the facts, you know what's right. So I heard Mr. Hubbard W. said once that he was, when he followed the Bible, and when the Democrats was on the Bible side, he was a Democrat. When the Republicans on the Bible, I don't know what he said it or not, you hear a lot of stuff. So I went through all these trips. I went in the worldwide, and they had this hierarchy type government that I knew was wrong from the first time I picked up the Bible. I knew that was wrong. I knew that I'm the only apostle. I knew that was wrong. And what made it sort of sad, that my trip in and out of institutions when I was young, just stopped when I got married. My wife kept me out. 24, I'm the cleanest guy in the world. But until I was 24, I was you know, a frustrated hoodlum, I guess. And once I was in the stockade in Fort Leonard. Y'all like this story? What I'm telling about these stockades? Y'all might get them run out of here. I keep talking. But I was in the stockade in Fort Leonard, and it was warm. I got under the barracks. I picked up a book called Joseph's Scepter. Judas' Scepter and Joseph's Birthright. So I knew that story long before I got in the worldwide. I knew, but I'm gonna tell you what I did. I read the book all the way through and thought, well, I don't want to hear that. I told you I didn't like white folks, and you don't tell me these white people, I didn't want to hear it. The next 10 years from the time I read that book, God had reprogrammed me. So what I do with the Bible is I just take what God said. I don't try to change it. If God said, I'm not a slave, I've never been a slave, but black people, because of their experience, when they hear the scripture about be submissive to your master, slaves, they get angry, But I don't like to read it either, but if God said be submissive to you, and I had a master, I'd be submissive to him, because that's what God said. I wouldn't like it. I tell God, I don't like this. I told him I didn't like the book. He didn't stop him. So gradually, by reading the book, and then read the worldwide version too, I started seeing things that made, just out of the clear blue sky. God would show me things. So I'm convinced that the English-speaking Anglo-Saxon that can trace his ancestor back to the Great Britain are the sons of Joseph. I have no problem with that. I'll even accept the fact that I'm an Ethiopian, I'm a Christian, going through the biblical reading. I'm a black man. I accept that. I was talking to some black Hebrews, and they told me, you know who you are? I said, yeah, I've been knowing who I am. This was I was born. The girl got mad at me because I went and be a black Hebrew, whatever you want to call it, whatever. They got about 5 names. You're a black Hebrew, Israelite, Jew. I said, y'all talking, And when I try to talk to them, I asked them, in the latter days, where do y'all fit in prophecy? I mean, let's be honest, Black folks as a whole are not on the top of the chain now. Right now, it's Europeans that run in the world. Whether you like it or not, China might be moving up. But right this minute, Europeans run the world. But every race have had their time to run the world and mess it up. Right after the flood, it was Cush and his people. And then about the Mongolians coming in the eastern. You can look at the Hungarians, the Polish people, and tell that some Chinese people have been there. You can look at Russians and see some of the traits of Chinese people. So if you go back and look at history, every race of people have had the time to shine and to add value to what we call civilization. I don't know what civilization. Now I'm gonna ask you a question. So, what do you mean when you say civilized? I got my own definition. I don't know what you mean. What do being civilized mean? If you want to be a girl. So I made up my own definition. I said a civilized man must be an educated man. And an educated man must have the knowledge of the true God. That's my definition. If you're walking God's way, you're an educated man. If you're not, you're a heathen. That's it. So going back to the book, when I got on the radio, I called Ron Dott and told him to talk to him, not about the radio program, I wanted to lean on him for his wisdom, but in the process of being honest, I made him angry. I told him that the best speakers of my lifetime have been him and John and Ted when it was preaching the gospel, but I don't worship you. I worship God. For some reason, that made him angry. And I think he realized he was wrong. Now, I must tell this on Ron Dott. The last time I saw Ron Dott personally, we were walking down the hallway, shoulder to shoulder, talking like brothers. And so last time I saw Ron Dott, he stopped and Mr. Dott stuff, and everybody was calling him Ron. If you went to his feet, you would know that he changed. And I probably should have been around Ghana Ted more, but I wasn't. Ghana Ted, when you go to the academy down there, he would not socialize that much with us. None of them did. We had the teacher come in and talk, then they leave. We didn't have any social activity with them. And I didn't really learn. But when I left Imperial Academy, I was walking on water. I was holy. And then I wasn't. But that's what everybody else was acting, so I thought I'd imitate them. But I didn't really learn anything down there. When we talked about myself. But this is what I have learned. John, the 6th chapter, verses 44 and 45. Will somebody read that for me? John, the 6th chapter, verses 44 and 45. I see Ward got it there. Chapter 6, yeah. This is my qualification. This is who taught me. This is how I learned. You read it.
No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up at the last day. It's written in the prophets, and they shall all be taught by God.
That's why I'm here.
Therefore, everyone who has heard and learned from the Father comes to me.
That's why I'm here. No man could have called me. No man would have been bothered with me 5 minutes. God used me. He used Herbert W. Ron Dott, Don Ted, but I answered to God. And when this morning, when the man said that I worship God in spirit and in truth, that's a powerful thing to me. Because when I first heard that, I was crying like a baby because I'd been mistreated by a minister. I got home and I turned to the Bible, and that's what it was. From that time, I've been free. The last time I talked to the pastor about this book that he was saying about, he asked me, why did I come to church? I said, God's spirit is there. And I worship God in spirit and in truth. And so where I sit in a congregation doesn't make it much difference to me because I still keep my eye on the prize. I can go to any church I want to, if I feel comfortable there, because I'm not better than anybody. I might not agree, but I still can go. But my eye is on the prize. And Jesus' blood, the blood of Jesus, Ephesians, the 1st chapter, the 2nd chapter, verse 18, you know what it says. It says we all have access to the Father. That's the theme of the book. The book is what I saw. For 40 years, people looking at a man, looking at an institution, calling it the church. Church is spiritual. You can't say the physical. Jesus knows who's in. He said, I know who my sheep are. And my sheep don't leave. That's what he said. That's what the book is about. The book is, if you read the back of the book or anything that I said, is to take you, I want you to, anybody, I don't care whether you're in this church or what church you're in, I want you to develop a personal relationship with God. In Hebrews, the 4th chapter, when the writer says, if Joshua had given them rest, they wouldn't seek another rest. Jesus said, come to me, I'll give you rest. He said, and I didn't know what he was talking about, but Mr. Petty, Gary Petty, gave a sermon, and he said, the rest, it wasn't talking about a 7-day rest. They talking about an eternal rest with the Father. We're here today trying to learn to love each other to show our love for the Father. We the Father's children. What you doing when you keep the Sabbath service every week, you coming before the Father. And you're developing a one-on-one relationship with the Father. That's the journey. We keep the Sabbath because God, one day a week, wants to have that relationship with his children. So some stupid person like me, and I'm not saying that because it sounds good. I know my limits. And I know that I've done some terrible things. And I know I'm not that good, but I try. I tell people that it's not because I hadn't been in the hog pen for a while. They hadn't fallen in the hog pen. But I don't lay in the hog pen. I try to crawl my way out. The difference, we all got some dirt, but we in the churches of God, if we would let it, we have the roadmap. We don't always go that narrow way. We fall off, but we have a roadmap, and when we develop relationship with each other, we develop a relationship with God, with the Father. Because we don't love each other, we don't love the Father. And we have to learn to love each other, and that's not easy. It's not as easy as I'm saying it. It's not, I'm saying it, but I ride down the street, I ain't got no prejudice. I got over all my prejudice. And I ride down the street and I see these people looking a different way. With a young white girl, had tattoos all over, and she was looking kind of like a hippie. My car wasn't running. She was the nicest human being I've ever met in my life. But my judgment of her was bad till she come over and fix my car. She fixed it. So I had to learn to not look at people and judge them, but we all do. We don't see the heart. We don't care about the heart. We just got our opinion of what a person's supposed to be, and that's what we want. We want to make people in our own image. So as we travel this road, and you'll see a lot of this in the book, we must develop that one-on-one relationship with God. That's what the church has never taught. They want you, if you want to draw close to each other, draw close to God. If we draw close to God, we're close. And I'm going to tell you something else too, that if we draw close together and become, brothers, we won't do that unless we overlook each other's fault. We said, brother, I know you got faults, but I still love you. I don't agree with this, but I love you. Love got to be there. And we can only talk about love, but when you got to practice love, something happened to me in March. No, not that long ago, in May. It ain't been that long ago. It's been about 2 months ago. My mind is gone. I probably make what they call the living wage. You look at the living wage, that's probably what I make. And so I'm not rich by any means. I'm not close to being rich. My granddaughter needed a car. And I said, I told her, I said, God, I can give her $3,000 and I still can live. So I wrote a check for $3,000. And I kept saying, God, it's hard to write that $3,000 because I'm old. Ain't got nobody to depend on with me. And you know what came into my mind? Lay for yourself treasures in heaven. I said, I've been preaching that for years, and then when the time came, I forgot it. I started thinking about me, and now. So it ain't easy to make those sacrifices that we need to sacrifice. We talk about it, but when opportunity comes, we don't do it. So the whole book is intended to, basically what you see on the page, is to point you to God with a personal relationship. Don't come to me because I can't help nobody. You want some rest, you sure don't want to come to me because I'm too noisy. You need to go to God. So I hope in reading the book, if you read it, the book is written in a way where a person, if they in this church, they can understand something. If they're not in this church, you can understand. If they're a scholar, they might get something out of it. And what they really should get out of it, that God is still on the throne. God is on his throne, and he's the one that picked people and gives them the talents that they have. What we have not done in the Church of God is pursue the talents of the people and see who really got talent. Well, I have a human resource degree, so when I talk to a person, I'm almost interviewing them all the time. You know, it's just a game with me. And you got talent in this room. And you got one particular guy that really surprised me because I didn't know him until last year. And I ain't gonna call his name because he might get embarrassed, but he knows who it is. He does a lot of Facebook stuff. The guy's really knowledgeable. And I don't learn that often, but so I said, this guy, I read it, and he kept on doing it. And he's sitting right here today, but I ain't gonna call his name, but he knows who he is. This man is very knowledgeable. So our job, my job is to lead sitting down. I'm not a leader. I'll push you out there, but I'm a backroom politician with the smoke, My personal purpose is get the job done. I don't have to get the credit. If I, get the job done. If I see some young people that are growing, that's showing whatever it is God showed me that they have, I want to push them out there. So we are a body. Everybody what part of the body you don't want? That's what the writer said. The uncommon part. I got hemorrhoid problem, so I know what the uncommon part can do to the other part. It can mess you up. If you don't believe that, you don't care how good and smart you are, if you are constipated, you ain't feeling too good. And you're not going to do so. Paul makes it plain. Who want to live without an eye? But we don't do that. We don't get together and identify the talent of every individual that we meet with and help them develop that talent. If you're a leader, your greatest job is not that you develop the talent that's under you, that God has given you. You spot them and you help them to do what they can do so they can work. The body works best when we work together. When we identify each other's talent and we push them and help them every way we can to excel. In real life, I was working at a company where I was the only black guy there when I was old, and there was a bunch of my children, I call them the young white guys. They were 21 when I was 30. They learned, they had the same degree that I had, and they learned how to deal with pressure because I was old. They would lean on me because I dealt with pressure. I got 2 kids and I'm 39. They hadn't even started their family yet. But all of them got promoted later on to great jobs. And I was just like a proud daddy. I was glad for them. I knew I had limits. It wasn't because of color, because they had a guy that was better degree than me, my age. They just wasn't going to promote those old men to certain jobs. They would use us to get everybody ready, but we had a limit of where we can go. But it didn't matter to me because I was making more money I ever made in my life. I was digging ditches. That's a whole lot of difference. But personally, I like to see young people develop and grow. I feel a part of it, and do good things. But going back to the real thing, what bothered me most, going to 3 or 4 different churches of God, and being a member, that we left one foot in Babylon. The leadership wanted to control and dominate the people. That's what they wanted to do. And if you're a little person, unimportant, you had no say so in anything. You go to most end of the corporate churches, you'll see guys with doctorate degrees, lawyer degrees, well off, good job. But the little poor guy back there, they don't ever ask him to do anything. They don't even know he got any sense or not. And a lot of times they are smart. Nobody never asked them anything. And so I don't know how you do it. You know, I can identify the problem, but I can't solve the problem. But people who want to dominate and control other people, I don't understand it. I don't have that need. Not even my wife, you know, was very outspoken. You know, every once in a while, she would do certain things when I was there. She would have said more if I hadn't been there. But she did respect me enough, you know, to say, well, I don't want to embarrass him, so I'm going to be quiet now. But she was very outspoken. And I decided early in the game, because I was a street guy, you know, I hate to say this, but from where I'm from, you know, women didn't talk too much because you shut them up. In my case, I said, I love my wife. If I try to intimidate her where she can't be who she is, it would destroy her. I saw that very early, that she was an outgoing person, and I was not going to mess with her. If anybody misunderstood her outgoing, that was their problem. You know, it was like a man or something. He thought she was too fresh or something, but she wasn't. That's the way she was. So I just, you know, just God put it in my head to turn her loose, let her loose. You know, she ain't going too far, you know, for her personality. So she'll be back. And I learned, for all young men here, if you got a woman, by the time they're 30, they want security more than anything else. They love you, but they want to know the house bill, the rent is paid, and some food on the table. So that's, you know, how you look and how pretty you are doesn't matter. If they're hungry, they don't care. They want security. So they might be crazy. Oh, he's so pretty when they're 18. Oh, he's so pretty. When they get 30, they don't, you know, that guy ain't looking that good to me now, you know. She got little babies running around. So take care of the woman. Take care of your woman. So, but I don't say almost everything I got to say. I'm not long-winded. I'm long-winded, but I'm long-winded one-on-one. And if anybody got anything to offer, they can. Anybody got anything to say about their experience with why you're here and not at the big church? Don't you want to go to the big church with all the fame and all the smart people? What? Huh? No, I'm sorry. It is. I don't think there's a person that you don't feel comfortable walking up to talking to. You can talk to anybody, children, anybody. You can walk up and talk to them. So I would say, though, I don't have. If I had notes, I'd still be up here. But since I don't have any notes, and there are some books back there. One for a family. If y'all get to it, y'all learn more about the book than me talking. So you're going to read it anyway. So if you don't have, this is the shortest Bible study. Whatever I'm supposed to be doing, that's pretty good. Yeah.